Well, people don't realize, right? A lot of founders make this mistake. They think if the product market fit is not achieved, that means something's wrong in my product.
Mm-hmm.
And so they keep going back to iterating the product. And I made that mistake myself, right? There's nothing that I'm saying that I've not done myself. I walked that path. I've made these mistakes, right?
Yeah. If you're a founder, innovator, or startup leader building a tech product, this episode could save you months of wasted time and thousands in development costs. Today, we're diving into a silent killer of product market fit, scope creep. That slow, sneaky expansion of your MVP that turns your build into a bloated mess and your launch date into a moving target. Joining me is Jay Pandya, a seasoned software developer and the brains behind MVP One, a company that's helped startups go from concept to code with laser focus. Jay's seen the carnage caused by shifting specs, feature overload, and founder, just one more thing syndrome. So stick around, because in this episode, we'll show you how to avoid blowing your budget, keep your team on side, and most importantly, ship something your market actually wants. Jay, welcome to that Product Market Fit Guy podcast.
Thank you, Trevor, for having me.
Well, it's a real pleasure to have you here today, Jay. Before we jump into the topic, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into software development?
Definitely. We had a long story, but I'll keep it short. Background, I was originally a medical doctor. Um, I'm talking late 90s.
Fascinating.
Fate took me to the technology, and I transitioned my career from medicine to tech. That was 2001. I came to Australia as well. Just like lots of, first generation immigrants, I immigrated eventually, studied here, did my master's, did my MBA, became a resident and citizen of Australia, and been here for 25 years. But, early part of the years were just doing a job and eventually started a consulting business in a digital transformation project program management, managing digital portfolios for various large scale companies. And after 17 years of that type of career, you know, implementing all sorts of technologies, whether it's a software development or integrations or business transformations and, analytics and machine
Yeah.
learning of excellence and SAP and ERP. And I've done all of that in 17 years. There was always this, um, where is the real fun? It's one thing to work in a big corporates and large scale 100 million, $200 million projects and programs of transformation. And that was fun and it was great. Uh, I always was fascinated by startups, and there was
Yeah.
there's also the heart of let's do something from nothing, create something, and make a big impact, right? And that's kind of the world of a startup. Um,
Yes.
and so that that was an attractive factors. That passion, that big ambition from nothing. To go actually, if we hang out with them, it's more life is gonna be more fun compared to the corporate bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
led me to starting MVP Ventures, back in 2017. And
Yes.
we've been operating since then. And yeah, we have worked with more than 80 startups, from strategy, business model design, to actual product software development, to launching it and, go to market and, initial commercialization strategy. So we do all of
Fantastic.
that, for the last 7 years, and we continue to evolve along with our startups that we work with. Yeah.
That's terrific. I mean, what a background and what a success story for, you coming to Australia and being where you are now, Jay. That's fantastic. Okay, well, let's jump into the topic of today, Jay. I know I've had the experience of working with entrepreneurs who were building software solutions initially as an MVP to get into the hands of early adopters as quickly as possible and to validate the market. But they just kept thinking of new features well beyond the original scope. It was the first time I heard the phrase scope creep. Can you share with the viewers what scope creep is, and in particularly, why scope creep can be dangerous when you're in that first development of an MVP.
Yeah, really, important factor, right? Very critical topic, I think, for any early stage startup. Um, Scope creep can be interpreted two ways, right? And I want to draw the distinction between the both. So the one way is, we were talking about jobs to be done as a framework,
Yes.
right? And one of the most common mistake founders make is their target persona has so many jobs that they need to do.
Uh-huh.
And MVP should be focusing on one, two, three, four, five jobs, whatever number of jobs, keep it too small. And one job to be done and creating a solution, that's great. Um, when a founder gets into, I think the source of the scope creep comes from founder trying to help the target persona for all the
Yes.
jobs that they have to do in their journey, right?
Gotcha.
That's one
Yep.
scenario. Um, the target persona has 25 jobs to do, and we're going to
Yep.
build a solution, an MVP for all 25 jobs. That becomes a source of scope creep. Um,
Yes.
that's one element of it. The other element of it, could be we are very clear on this three jobs to be done, and we are focusing on helping our target persona for those three jobs to be done. We remain focused on that. We don't go
Yep.
outside of that scope. But then, we keep thinking about different features and the bells and the whistles and the functions uh, to help the founder do those three jobs or one job in a way that is deep, rich, fascinating, sexy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both of those phenomena lends itself to scope creep.
Yes.
And I think, from what I have seen and what I always recommend is you go to build the scope that allows someone to complete the jobs to be done for, the job that they need to do.
Yes.
Then launch it. Give it to the customer. You can go horizontally. You can go horizontally, that is end to end, the end to end journey, complete that end to end journey for that job to be done.
Yes.
Don't go too deep in it,
Good
because
advice.
right, it's like, I'll give you a simple example. Login, just a feature, that's one feature.
Yes.
Login via email, login via Google, login via Facebook, login via Apple, login without a user ID password, just a phone number and SMS. That's what I call depth of the features.
Yeah.
The
Understood.
feature requirement is actually just login as a authenticated user, right? That's
Yes.
the requirement as a feature. Now,
Yes.
there are, scope creep becomes, oh, when a founder goes, I want email, I want Google, I want Facebook, I want Apple, I want phone number, all of those login methods, you have to ask, well, are you really investing into the end to end jobs to be done? Or
Yep.
now we are investing into the depth of the feature?
So even Jay, that sort of leads to the definition of an MVP. I think that's a great example of what you've given. Yes, all those other methods of being able to log in would be great, but an MVP just needs to keep it simple to get it into the hands of the early adopters and then learn which are most important for them.
You know, many times I end up with a debate with the founder. Why do you even need the user to even log in? We can do that later. Let's validate the
Yes.
value of the transaction.
Absolutely. And every one of those elements that are being added on that are not absolutely necessary for your early adopter program is more time, it's more expense, and as we said, it's getting outside of what a minimum viable product really needs to get up and going. That was a really good example to use, Jay. How can scope creep hurt product market fit specifically?
Look, if you ask me the product, what is a product market fit, right? From my view, you are iterating four things minimum. You're iterating product, you're iterating your persona, who are you selling to? You're
Yes.
iterating your marketing message, your positioning and narrative marketing message, and you are
Yes.
iterating pricing, right? That
Yes.
at what price this persona, at what price, at our solution, who will buy it, and how, what's the marketing message through which they'll buy it, right?
Absolutely.
Those four wheels are in motion, and the founder is iterating all four of them. People don't realize that they are discovering the product market fit. There is a persona, and if this persona didn't work out, I need to go to the next persona.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great way to describe it. And having done the research and knowing what their niche submarket is, understanding the personas, what are the jobs to get done, and their frustrations in doing so, then just try and deliver the most minimum viable product to get it into their hands at that lowest cost to build that beachhead to begin with. So yeah, that's a good example of how scope creep can sort of hurt the product market fit if you go outside of that original concept.
Well, people don't realize, right? A lot of founders make this mistake. They think if the product market fit is not achieved, that means something's wrong in the product.
Mm-hmm.
And so they keep going back to iterating the product. And I made that mistake myself, right? There's nothing that I'm saying that I've not done myself. I walked that path. I've made these mistakes, right? And
Yes, we
so,
all have.
like, you go back to add this feature and then it will work. And then we do that and then it will work. Except that we forget that maybe we might need to iterate with persona. We might need to iterate with the marketing message. We might need to iterate with the pricing. uh, Sometimes low pricing may not work out. I've sold same product for $99 versus $100,000, and our customers who pay $100,000 for the same product are actually happier, and are the right customers for the product that we were giving to $99 customer, right? So pricing iterations, there's nothing wrong with the product, but so scope creep, you default, you go back to the product. More development is not always the answer in a journey of product market fit. You got to recognize other components you are iterating.
Yes, and Jay, that really emphasises the need of that earlier research of doing a qualitative research, which is another fancy word for talking to your customers, understanding which jobs are the most important to them and which ones are giving them the greatest pain. So that's a really interesting way that you outline those sort of four elements. Why do you think founders often unintentionally cause scope creep?
Great question, right? I think no founder actually will say that they are causing scope creep ever. It's only after the fact,
Yes.
right? And that's why it's unintentional. I think it's unintentional 99.9% of the time. Uh, and so why that happens is because um, most founders get fascinated by the product idea and the solution that they create
Yeah. Yeah. Good
versus,
point.
and then the obsession becomes about this platform, this app, this product, this solution. It's very easy to fall in love with your own baby, right? um,
Yes.
uh, your idea, and you created it and you brought it to life, and you kind of spend blood, sweat, and tears, and you kind of get so invested into the product. um, and so you get so, and you don't see there are other, sometimes it's not the product's issue. It could be the issue of persona, it could be issue of pricing, it could be issue of the marketing messaging and narrative and positioning. But most founder, because they're so in love with the product and the idea and the solution, they try to fix that. uh,
Yeah.
and the most founders I know, including myself and people I worked with, I have a vision for the product, what the product and a solution should do, and the product is never there. So then founders lean towards fixing the product and adding more to match the vision. Somehow, once the product reaches the vision and is a match with the vision, then they'll find product market fit. Um, that phenomenon lends to that unintentional behavior of what you call scope creep.
Yes, yeah. That's a really clear way to demonstrate that sort of scope creep, Jay. Really interesting in how you describe that, and that's a good segue into. Can you share a real example without using names or identifying the product or anything of where scope creep was a real disaster?
I'll tell you about my own journey, right? You
Well,
know,
that's a very authentic way for you to share a story.
we thought we were doing everything right in early days of what my platform is Zingify, and it used to be called Master Dojo. Uh, we were only building things that customers wanted.
Yes.
In a startup world, you get so much about listen to the customer, validate with customers, give them what they want, right? And 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 what happened in my own journey, which actually led to the scope creep, for not months but for years, right? Um, is our customers wanted so many things,
Uh huh.
and like all customers in every industry and every segment, they do.
Yep.
Um, and every time we spoke to customers, there was a feature request, there was a enhancement request, there was this, if it did this, it'll be amazing. And I thought we are listening to a customer, and our roadmap is driven from what customers want and what the market wants. Except that now, if I look back early years of our platform journey, I look back and you know what, we tried ended up satisfying too many use cases, um, right? Because we listened to customers too much. Um, Under the guise of listen to the customers, we somehow landed into, we do that use case, 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 and we try to do everything for our chosen segment, instead of mastering one use case at a level of depth that we can gain that early traction. So I've made that mistake myself, and I can speak from the experience of trying to satisfy too many jobs to be done was probably, I would say, a fatal error in a journey of original, what I would say, Master Dojo, because we struggled and we never really nailed one use case. We did
Yes.
enough. We did enough of each use case to keep a customer happy, but not the entire segment happy, right? See, to keep an entire segment happy, you have to nail the use case at its depth.
That's brilliant, um, Joe. Jay, that sort of thing is just such a learning example for people to really stick to that original niche market segment, understanding what are the most important jobs, and just get in there and get it into their hands, and then learn from that, and really be focused on what your next step is. Would you agree?
100% agree, but I would say add to that is that determining what the next step is critical, and sometimes it needs to include ignoring what customers are saying.
That's
Um,
interesting.
right? Because
Yeah.
and I think I was quite uh, naive or immature as a founder, in
Yes.
early stages, when I was practically wanting to do everything that customers wanted. But that can actually be counterproductive. It ends up in a scope creep because, and I'll give you example, online courses, events, referrals, testimonials, community. Our market said we want all these features, and we built all those features. And then we had to keep confronting that none of the feature went into the level of depth that the entire segment will be happy with, right? So broad, right? Broad scope coverage and the lack of depth into each scope. function.
That's a really interesting insight for someone of your caliber and experience and all that, and from what you've learned in those early days to now manifest that in the way that you work with startups. How should founders prioritize features to actually avoid that, Jay?
I think I like the jobs to be done framework. That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
one I look at is a customer journey,
Yes.
and to a current customer journey map, and then picking parts of the journey, not maybe the entire journey, but the parts of the journey that is extremely painful, right? And and if we solve that part of the pain, what features or functions will solve that pain, right?
Yeah.
That's a good start in terms of determining your MVP. You try to solve for the entire journey can become a bloated scope, but you pick a part of the journey and a painful feature that people are willing to pay for, and you create a solution and give hands of the solution, hands of the customer for that pain, and people use it and like it. I think that's a good MVP.
I have to totally agree with that, Jay. It's a good approach, and it's actually reiterates the value of getting that MVP into the hands of early adopters, who are people who are early movers. They love technology. They love to solve problems, and if that is solving their pain, then they become great voices to actually widen that beachhead before you start going into different market segments where they will want different features and different things and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would even say, even each one segment will have multiple pain points. Solve one pain point, because the same segment you try to solve multiple pain points. Yes, get them to start paying for that one pain point for your MVP. That's a good validation before you move on to the second pain point and the third pain point, without that commercialization piece, right? Because you try to solve multiple pain points for the same segment, that also becomes source of the scope creep.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point for people and the viewers to take on board, Jay. What sort of tools or practices help manage evolving scope creep without derailing the whole product market fit?
um, there are so many frameworks that are there. One of the biggest one that I like to use, every time there's a new idea, new feature, new scope, right? Uh, I always kind of draw a graph, X and Y axis. X axis is the complexity to deliver, and Y axis is the value, and what's the value to the customer, right?
Yeah,
And can you
very
and
important.
map that feature in terms of what do you solve and what do you prioritize? Because you have three sources of features request, right? One is founder's
Hmm.
own vision. Founder has their own mental roadmap of what this product should do. That's one source of and you can never exhaust that source. Founders got
Yeah,
always
yeah,
big ideas what this thing will should do. That's one source. Second
yes,
source is what customers are telling you
yeah, important.
as their feature requests and enhancements. And then the third source is uh, your team
Yes,
team's opinions of what should be done. And you know what? Those are the three sources, but then there's a fourth source that most founders don't pay attention to. And that fourth source of the feature request or feature identification is not listening to what customers are saying or user segment representative of users are saying, but what is the data telling about what they are doing?
ah, that's
Okay.
interesting.
And so we again, I learned from that, right? Customers say one thing and you kind of hear that as a validation, but what is that behavior
Yes,
captured by the data in the product showing? And that can be contradictory.
yes, yes. So focus on what they do, not what they're
Not what
saying.
they say. Correct. And let
Yeah,
let what they do dictate the priority and the choices of which feature you deliver next, not what they're saying.
Fantastic, Jay. That's really valuable for the viewers here. I guess in order to start to wrap up a little bit, Jay, final tips for founders working with developers in order to stay on track, because let's face it, some developers, they love taking the money and keeping projects going, unlike MVP1, who's really focused, customer centric. But what would be some of the final tips for founders who are working with developers and making sure it's staying on track?
One of the first thing I would say is you got to have a developer or developer team who you trust, right? And actually have a partnership type of relationship, not a transactional relationship, right?
Yeah.
It comes down to relationship and a trust factor, and are you in it, whether it's a whatever is a commercial arrangement, right? But build
Yes.
a relationship that is based on a foundation of trust and winning together. Number one, um, don't have a transactional relationship, right? Um, the second thing is, especially for non-technical founders, uh, you got to learn to appreciate the technical complexity that goes in, and don't underestimate the skills. If you've got a good development team, don't
Yeah.
underestimate the technical complexity of what your developers are dealing with. If you don't understand something, ask questions, but at least acknowledge and appreciate that there is a bunch of technical constraints, complexity that they might be dealing with, and keep a communication line open for what customers are saying, what customers are doing. And
Mhm.
founders need to be open to work with the developer to go, this is what I heard from a customer, let's change this, versus this is what I heard from the customers, can you show me what the data is telling us about
Oh,
what they're saying,
wow.
right? And
Wow.
developers will help you identify customer behavior versus what customers are saying in a complaints or support tickets, blah blah blah, right? And then your developer is the best friend to come up with a better solution that no customer or your independent imagination will ever come up with. Uh, but if you collaboratively work with a developer to go, this is what the customer said, let's together examine what the data is saying, and actually brainstorm together as a team to go, what could be a solution here?
That's brilliant, Jay. What I love about it is, yes, you're getting indications and feedback loops are very important with your customers, and we all know that. But what you're adding to it there is validated through data. And if the data is not there in the system itself, go back and talk to multiple users, particularly within your early adopter program, and see whether that's consistent across the whole spectrum of who you're targeting. That's really profound in how you put that. Well done.
Thank you. It's just, school of hard knocks of startups.
Well, that's one of the benefits of viewers actually working with developers who have not only just developed products for others and taken in all the fees along the way, but working with developers who are entrepreneurs themselves, have been through the process, have lost a few bob here and there along the way, but learnt deeply from that, and are then transposing that into their journey with their customers. That's terrific, Jay.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, Jay, thank you so much for joining us here on that Product Market Fit Guy podcast. A lot of our viewers are very keen to learn using this as a learning journey. And it's through speaking with people like yourselves that are right in there amongst the battles and seeing how things actually come out in the real world. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having
For
me.
the it's been an absolute pleasure, and I've learned a lot from it myself, Jay. For the viewers, if you would like to get in touch with Jay, we'll provide a bit of a download there for you to get in touch with Jay and the team at MVP1. And that'll have all the contact details for Jay and MVP1 on it. And also, you could go to the MVP1 website, which is M for Mary, V for Victor, P for Peter, and the numerical number 1.com.au. And don't forget to subscribe. So if you've ever felt the temptation to keep tweaking your MVP, remember your developers want to help you succeed, not rebuild the same product 3 times. Utilize the tips that Jay's given us and that have come through in this interview and take it from there. Great episode, Jay. Looking forward to getting this out to everyone. Thank you again. For everyone else, ciao for now.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Trevor. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jay. Great stuff.